get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Hey, Thrive Loud listeners, Lou Diamond here. We have a great Thrive Loud catch-up episode for you today. We have Adam Frisch, CEO of BIM, Buy It Mobility Networks, the premier payments and consumer engagement platform. It's been over 2 years since we initially had Adam as a guest on Thrive Loud, and he and the team at BIM have been incredibly busy rolling out their incredible payments platform. You'll learn of the great clients BIM is working with, the cost savings they're providing merchants, and the powerful data they're capturing that is validating how impactful these merchant-branded debit platforms can be. So enjoy this episode as we catch up with Adam Frisch here on Thrive Loud. Welcome to a special Thrive Loud catch-up episode here with CEO of BIM, Buy It Mobility Networks, Adam Frisch. Adam, how are you today?
I'm great, Lou. Thanks for having me back. How are you?
Adam is here with us. It's been over 2 years since your original interview here on Thrive Loud, which is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. A lot has happened since then. I want to bring our listeners up to speed and help them understand exactly what BIM has been up to over the last few years, because it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, thank you. It's been incredibly busy 2 years for the company. We've launched several national merchants and are live with them in market now. We have real data now we can reference to support the vision we laid out a few years back. We signed and are launching some big reseller partners. Most notably probably is WorldPay, which is the largest merchant processor in the U.S., which we anticipate bringing us into verticals that we're not live with yet. Lots of technology advancements and expansion. We became SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, which is pretty rare for a company of our size. So we've been pretty busy all across the company.
It sounds like you've been busy and productive, more importantly. I know we are going to focus on BIM's success in petrol today. Can you give a quick update on the other verticals that you've been working with and why you're targeting them right now?
Sure. So there's several verticals that represent about $7 trillion of annual U.S. consumer spend that we put into the quote-unquote every day, every week, every month category. So pharmacy, petroleum, grocery, C-store, QSR, which is quick service restaurants, recurring, things like Netflix. And they don't really have a tool out there to use payments as a means to increase loyalty and engagement with their consumers. The benefits merchants get with private label credit cards in certain verticals are well established, right? More revenue, higher basket sizes, increased loyalty, etc. But most consumers won't go take out a fast food credit card, a fast food branded credit card, or a pharmacy branded credit card. Most of the transactions, about 60 to 70% on average in our target markets in those every day, every week, every month categories, are debit and cash. And we saw an immense opportunity to offer them a payment alternative with their name on it that they could put in their apps and websites to help promote their brand and drive engagement and loyalty with their consumers. So you're going to hear me say that a lot over the next few minutes, but that's really the key. And to enable their customers to continue to pay in their preferred way, and that's their checking account, but do it in a way that's much better for the merchant and the consumer. So we've been able to make a lot of inroads there to bring technology to market that we think helps them win with their customers. And that's really our mission.
This is unbelievable because I remember where we were. And obviously, for those original listeners, we'll provide the links from the original episode. So you can go back and listen to my conversation 2 years ago with Adam. Adam, if you could, though, describe this great process of paying directly from your checking account through your mobile device via ACH. I want you to talk about, I guess, the success you've had specifically in this petrol space and how you do this. Because for those of us who drive cars, and that's a lot of people, we're pumping gas all the time. So talk about what you've been doing over the last few years to be able to enact this technology and make it work. Let's start with that. I want to hear more.
Okay. So we have some big national brands out there that we're really very happy with. And I know you wanted to focus on petrol. So Shell, Phillips 66, and Sinclair Oil are the three big ones that we speak about most frequently in this vertical. They comprise just about 20% of the U.S. petroleum market from their locations. And I think we have a really good shot of increasing that 20% pretty soon. So hopefully the next time I come on, we'll talk about that. There's a lot in the pipeline. not only with major brands, but also in the mid-market level as well, the brands with a few hundred locations. And we're really excited about working with them too, because they not only need our platform to stay competitive, but the benefits to their bottom lines can happen much faster because of their size. So our early successes so far have been really what we envisioned, which was to create a platform that was simple and easy to implement for the merchant, simple and easy to use for consumers, and a platform that could really enhance the merchant-customer relationship. And also the data. I think the data is something that is real, just as important as everything else here, because for the first time, merchants are able to see who their customers are via a digital payment option and influence their engagement. So, a gas station will have cars driving in and out all day, and they have no idea who these people are that are coming and going. And so we're giving them an opportunity to leverage data to not only know who they are, but communicate with them and create a buying experience that sells more gas and gets them into the store more frequently as well. It's the golden rule in retail, really, right? It's happy and more loyal customers come to your locations more frequently, and when they do, they spend more money. The data on that is irrefutable.
Adam, let's help our listeners understand the real benefits here, the advantages of this merchant-branded tender. Let's help people understand, remind them a little bit about what this brings to them, the consumer, but also to the merchant, because there's some really cool offerings that you guys have paired together.
Yeah, and it's got to be both ways, right? The merchant and the consumer both have to find value in what we're doing. So it's both sides that we have to offer a clear value prop to. On the merchant side, it's really two parts. Because we are merchant branded, we're able to help them realize increased loyalty and consumer engagement, which will drive higher revenues, all driven by better data that the merchant has for the first time about their customers, as I just mentioned. And I think it's also about cost. Because we're ACH based, the cost of our transactions are much lower for the merchant, and that enables them to basically self-fund incentives. Incentive, by the way, that come full circle and drive more revenue, right? So that's it on the merchant side. For the consumer, when they pay with their checking account today at the point of sale, whether it's coming via debit card or cash, they're getting zero benefit for using that option other than the mental satisfaction that they're spending money they have versus money that they're borrowing. Well, now we are enabling the merchants we work with to say to their customers, continue to pay with the way you prefer, but now there will be some kind of value proposition put on top of that. So again, it's pretty simple. If you can get more benefit from paying with your checking account, whether it's discounts, coupons, conveniences, things like that, again, it's not rocket science. We think that's going to drive the adoption, and that's the consumer value prop.
Adam, I want to focus on payment alternatives for a second here. Talk about what you're seeing with card on file issues at the pump. And for our listeners out there, card on file means putting your credit card or debit card onto the app itself. Adam, if you could, talk about what you're seeing in the space and how it relates and how it differs with what BIM does.
Okay, so a few thoughts here. There's a lot of fraud out there with card on file, and I think probably a lot more than many anticipated. That's the first point. The second point is they're not necessary to drive app adoption. I think the key to driving app adoption for our merchants, it's all about making consumers aware that the app exists first, and then creating a relevant value prop that they will view as more worthy of downloading and using the app or website, but that really doesn't apply in the petroleum space. So we'll stick to the apps. Again, it's not rocket science here. The more awareness consumers have and the more value they see in the offer, the more adoption will happen. So we ask merchants all the time, why would you lead with a payment option like card on file that does not drive engagement with your brand, does not provide you with the game-changing customer data, is more expensive and has much higher fraud rates? Doesn't it make more sense to put a value prop on the way their customers prefer to pay and realize all the benefits we just discussed around that? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's really the issue around card on file at the pump. And our position is not necessarily to exclude card on file, but why lead with it? Why not include the merchant brand as a payment option right out of the gate when you launch the app? It's incredibly important, I think, for the long-term achievement of their adoption goals, because once a consumer sets their payment credential, the potential of getting them to switch to something different is a pretty significant challenge.
Adam, I want to get back to the point you're making about brand adoption. Where is the proof that offering card on file is not necessarily the most important thing about driving app adoption?
Well, the very clear and definitive proof, Lou, is that our two biggest programs out there, Shell and Phillips 66, Neither of them offers card on file for new enrollment. And I don't think it's a real stretch to say that these are two very big, highly reputable, very smart national merchants that represent a big chunk of the U.S. market, and they know what it takes to reach consumers effectively. They're investing a lot of money in their digital strategies, in their apps, and consumer awareness, and they don't see the need to put card on file in their apps in order to drive adoption. So I guess the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, and what these big brands are actually seeing themselves and implementing today in the market.
When we sat down and had our little interview, which I can't believe, Adam, was over 2 years ago. Yeah. So much has happened since then. But as I remember, we talked about whether the consumer would want to use a merchant branded BIM option in the wallet. Have you figured out, or have you recognized proof that consumers want to use this type of platform?
Yeah, we actually have data now to show it. So it's not just me speaking about our vision. A couple of facts here that I think clearly illustrate the point. In one of our national programs, we are about a third of the wallet transactions, and that's happening without any additional promotion or incentive over the other options in the wallet. So just throwing it out there with everything else, we're about a third of the transactions in the wallet. So the answer to that is yes, people are still using their checking account to pay, but with our platform, they're realizing a benefit by doing so. The other question that you didn't ask, but we need to bring up, is around enrollment and whether people feel comfortable putting their username and password into a petroleum app to provide their banking credentials to do it. And I would say 3 years ago, before we rolled out, there was some hesitation around whether people will do that. But I'm very happy to report that they do. We have about 90% plus of our enrollments going through that option. We also offer what we call the slow way, which is a multi-day process called CDW. We have to offer that for consumers as well. But over 90% of our enrollments are coming in the quote-unquote instant way. And people are putting in their username and their password to their bank account, selecting their checking, and they're done. And the reason for that, we believe, is that they want immediate gratification. They see an offer, they see a discount, they want that 10 or 15 or 20 cents off a gallon of gas. It means something to them. They want it immediately. And they don't want to have to wait a week or 2 weeks to get that deal. They want it now. And we help our merchants facilitate that immediate gratification and brand satisfaction. And I think it's a differentiator.
I remember it was hypothetical back then when we first spoke, but it's real now. Let's talk economics for the actual gas stations. The gas station owners still get charged for these transactions. So what is the value proposition for them?
Okay. So this might be a little bit of a longer answer, but it's still the cheapest of all the payment alternatives by far, even cash. And the fact of the matter is they don't mind paying it because it's the only tender type that actually helps them make more money because of the increase of loyalty and engagement factors that we talk about relative to the branded tender. So none of the other payment alternatives in the wallets really offer that type of value prop for them. Among the most important takeaways, I think, that we're talking about today, we think our tender generates more revenue for the station owner as well. It's not just about cost, it's about revenue. And again, this is not my opinion. I'll give you the facts that one of our merchants told us. Their analysis says that our platform will drive $3 to $4 per user on average in gas profits alone each month for each user. And it'll be greater than that for the power users. And that's even excluding the lift they'll see in the store. So a little bit more data. Take Cumberland Farms, for example. They have an amazing program called SmartPay. And what they're finding is something like 40% of their users go into the store 135% more frequently than people who don't use a Cumberland branded tender, right? So just think about that. Not only can gas station owners be more profitable at the pump, which is a low margin business in most parts of the country, but by leveraging our platform effectively, brands can also drive consumers into the stores, and that's where the profits are much, much higher compared to the pump. The craftier ones out there the craftier brands are thinking about playing the pump in the store off of each other. So initiatives like make 2 purchases in store every month, get more discounts at the pump, or vice versa, and things like that, depending on their footprint. Some are considering digital lanes that don't even accept credit cards to promote the concepts we've been talking about here, as well as avoid the very expensive EMV implementation requirement that was delayed, but now the deadline is coming up again. So the ideas and the concepts are really not hard. It's just about execution at this point with a lot of these guys and wrapping their heads around an alternative that isn't completely the same as what they've seen in the last 40 years, but provides them with much, much more benefit.
Adam, quick question. Is BIM still viewed as an emerging payment type?
It's a good question. It's a funny question, right? Because ACH has been around for almost 50 years now, but it is viewed as an emerging tender in a way because we're enabling it to be used differently at the point of sale, whether it's on an app or a website. So I would say no, in the sense because we're using a tender and we're using the tender and just wrapping a whole bunch of new technology around something that's been around for a lot of years. But yes, to your question, in the sense that merchants haven't seen it used like this before, and it's not their standard payment type that they've seen for the last 30 years, and it involves their brand. So it's a little bit more intricate because it involves more areas of their company to coordinate effectively. But, we've designed our system to not have to be any different from their current payment flow. So with WorldPay merchants, for example, our solution basically comes pre-integrated into their existing flows. There's no material additional technology or anything else they have to incorporate. It's just something that's a little different in some facets, but brings a lot more benefits, which we've discussed.
Adam, let's talk about BIM's unique capabilities so that our listeners can understand all the specific highlights of the unique things that BIM offers.
Yeah, again, we had a vision that we laid out a couple years ago when I was on, and now we have actual experience that we can discuss. So we have more information to show merchants what works and what doesn't work when they're in the planning stages. And I think we're being looked to as more than just the technology platform, but experts in how to drive adoption and program success. And that's really important. The data is what the data is, right? And the benefits of getting us involved early in the process, we have data that shows how different strategies impact usage and adoption and cost and decline rates and things like that. And so I think it's great that we have the information. I think it's even greater that the merchants are looking at us now in that regard to offer that insight. And the data and how we use what we have today and setting up for how we can leverage it in the future to drive our merchant success, that is one area of greatest advancement since we last spoke. So things like capabilities to target people who aren't adopting quickly, people who have enrolled but maybe only transacted once or haven't come back. And we now have the ability for things like quote unquote win-back programs via text and email. Some of our brands and merchants don't want to touch consumer data. They don't feel comfortable using it for various reasons. And they're asking us, hey, can you help us bring these people back who are late adopters, bring them back into the mix here? Can you send them text and email messages with special offers and things like that? And we can actually help them do that. And I think there are also areas of bringing new customer groups to petrol apps, and a few examples I could speak to. But the one that most people can identify with is connected car. And I think you'll see several auto manufacturers go live with partnerships with petrol brands in the first half of 2020. Several have already been announced, and we're right in the middle of a bunch of those things, and it's really exciting. And that helps both drive engagement and loyalty with their customers who happen to be the same people, right? People who own cars buy gas. And I think that's another reason why people view BIM as a differentiated platform, because we're working with other merchants, so to speak, that can bring them more users when they launch their own programs. So more to come on those kinds of things soon.
Adam, I couldn't do one of these Thrive Loud catch-up episodes without doing what's coming forward and what's going to happen in the future for BIM. What can we expect going forward for you guys?
A lot. That's the short answer. But let me think. How do I want to? So think about this in 2 ways. As it relates to our current platform, I think there are two major initiatives to speak to. One, enhancements to enrollments and fraud prevention without any requirements for merchants to update their apps and websites. And that's a big selling point for us because merchants can expect to get a state-of-the-art platform in consumer authentication and verification and fraud mitigation and things like that without having to keep it up themselves and with no IT maintenance on their end. That's big. And two, we've talked about a lot about data as well. And I think that's something that we want to lead with our merchants and provide them with a platform via BIM Insights that, in addition to our standard reporting, will enable them to embrace and leverage the data however they want. So we're super excited about rolling that out, hopefully in the next quarter or two, and having that interface, which will also be powered in part by machine learning and artificial intelligence capabilities as well. Very, very powerful back end. That is very exciting, and I don't think anyone else is doing that from what we can tell, but it's really consistent with our vision of us putting more tools into merchants' hands that help them drive more meaningful relationship with their customers. Again, very basic. The other initiatives we're thinking about for the future and I think our team has been very thoughtful and forward-looking about the way we've designed and built our platform, I think it leads to ideal and logical expansion into other forms of payments. And so while we are currently just ACH, we think of ourselves as a leading platform that uses data and ultimately several branded payment tenders to help merchants drive revenue and consumer engagement. And I think you'll see potentially open loop debit from us in two forms, one within our own network of merchants, and also a network debit offering where consumers who use a merchant app at one of the locations go over BIM and ACH. But if the consumer want to use that brand's payment credential, which is powered by our platform, at another merchant, it can go over one of the network rails. And so it's not a done deal yet, but I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to roll that out to merchants as well, so they can get the same benefits as private label credit programs, right? Like additional revenue, loyalty, and so forth. But they can get that in a debit platform. And I think that's something that's really interesting down the line. Real-time payments is an obvious one making a lot of headlines lately as well, and I think we're very well positioned there to do something interesting. Could we get into different forms of credit, whether it's immediate at the point of sale credit or other things? I think that's all on the table. I think we're building our platform to be able to do those kinds of things over the longer term. So we're definitely focused on day-to-day execution because we have big merchants that are relying on us. But we also have a foot in tomorrow, as the saying goes, in terms of thinking about future expansion and other capabilities.
Adam Frisch, I am so glad we did this Thrive Loud catch-up episode. This was really getting down to the nuts and bolts of things, and so much has happened. It's crazy in just 2 years. This is why people have asked for this type of show and get updates of what's happened with people who have great ideas and are leading great businesses. And I can't get over what you guys have accomplished in just this short period of time. So continued success to you, to BIM, the organization. It's really awesome and impressive.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just glad we have real data now from live programs with big, huge, important brands that justify our vision. So we're very grateful for our partners and looking forward to coming back with a lot more success stories in the future. The hardest part, Lou, may be very well fitting into your ridiculously busy schedule. So congrats. So congrats to you on your growing success as well. It's great to see you thriving as well.
Well, no, truly a pleasure, man. Thank you for coming on the show, my friend. This has been great. Continued success to you. And to all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and check us out on the web at thriveloud.com or follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud.